We leave the city after midnight, hoping to reach the cabin before sunrise. The highway is empty, and the fog is so thick we can barely see the road ahead. The only sound is the engine and the radio playing quietly in the background. We pass a sign for Devil's Pass, and everyone goes silent. Sarah takes a picture of the sign and tries to joke, but her voice sounds forced. Mike says he feels cold, even though the heater is on. Jess keeps looking out the window, like she's searching for something. I grip the steering wheel tighter and try to ignore the feeling that something is wrong. The trees on both sides seem to close in, and the darkness feels alive. I tell myself it's just the fog and the late hour, but I can't shake the sense that we're not alone. The road feels endless, and every mile we drive, the silence inside the car grows heavier. Sarah scrolls through her phone, but there's no signal. Mike tries to change the radio station, but all he gets is static. Jess finally asks if anyone else feels strange, and no one answers. For a moment I say it's just nerves, but I don't believe it myself. The headlights catch shapes in the fog that disappear as soon as we get close. The air inside the car feels colder, and I notice my hands are shaking a little. I try to focus on the lines of the road, but they seem to blur and twist in the mist. I keep thinking about the stories I heard about Devil's Pass, but I never believed them until now. The feeling of being watched gets stronger, and I start to wonder if we made a mistake coming this way. We keep driving deeper into the fog, and the silence inside the car feels heavier with every mile. The road is so empty, it almost feels like we are the only people left in the world. I try to focus on the lines ahead, but the mist keeps swirling in the headlights, making it hard to see anything clearly. Suddenly, Sarah leans forward and says she saw someone standing by the road. None of us believe her at first, but then Mike says he thought he saw something too. I slow down and look in the rearview mirror, but there is nothing there, just the fog and the empty road stretching behind us. Jess says it's probably just a trick of the light, but I can hear the whirring in her voice. The car feels colder, and the windows start to fog up from the inside. I turn up the heater, but it doesn't help much. We all go quiet for a while, listening to the sound of our own breathing and the tires on the wet pavement. I keep checking the mirrors, half expecting to see someone running after us, but there is nothing. The feeling of being watched won't go away. A few minutes later, we pass a faded mile marker, and I see something in the headlights. A person is standing on the side of the road, not moving, not waving, just standing there facing us. The figure is so still, almost doesn't look real. I slow down even more, and everyone in the car goes silent. Sarah whispers that we should keep driving and not stop. Mike tries to make a joke, but his voice shakes. Jess just stares straight ahead, gripping her seat. I drive past the figure and try not to look, but I can't help glancing in the mirror. The figure is gone as soon as we pass, like it was never there at all. No one says anything for a long time. The only sound is the engine and the static on the radio. I feel my heart beating faster, and my hands are sweating on the steering wheel. Try to tell myself it was just someone walking home, or maybe a lost hitchhiker, but deep down I know something is wrong. The road behind us disappears into the fog, and I start to wonder if we are really alone out here, or if something is following us. Keep driving, but something strange happens. The dashboard clock suddenly jumps forward by more than an hour. None of us remember the last few miles. It feels like we just lost time. The radio starts making a strange static noise, and then a voice whispers something we can't understand. It sounds distant, but clear enough to make us all freeze. Sarah quickly turns off the radio, but the silence feels even worse. I try to laugh it off and say maybe we are just tired, but no one laughs back. Jess checks her phone, but there is no signal. Mike says he feels like we are driving in circles, but the GPS shows we're still on the same road. The air inside the car feels colder, and I notice my hands are shaking a little. The windows are fogged up, and I can see our reflections looking pale and scared. I try to focus on the road, but the lines seem to blur and twist in the mist. The headlights barely light up anything ahead, and the forest outside looks darker than before. I keep thinking about the stories I heard about Devil's Pass, but I never believed them until now. The feeling of being watched gets stronger, and I start to wonder If we made a mistake coming this way, no one speaks. For a long time, we all just sit there listening to the sound of the engine and the static that still comes from the radio. Even though it's turned off, I look at the clock again and wonder how we lost so much time. The sense of dread keeps growing, and I can't shake the feeling that something is out there in the fog, watching us, waiting for us to stop. See an old gas station appear out of the fog and decide to stop, even though none of us really want to. The building looks abandoned, with broken windows and a flickering neon sign that barely lights up the darkness. The pumps are covered in rust and the concrete is cracked and overgrown with weeds. I park the car near the entrance, and for a moment no one moves. The silence outside is even heavier than inside the car, and the only sound is the engine idling. Sarah says we should just keep going, but Mike points out that we might need gas if we get stuck out here. Jess looks at the building and says it doesn't feel right. I agree, but I try to act calm and say, we'll just check quickly. I step out of the car, and the cold air hits me right away. The fog is so thick I can barely see the edge of the parking lot. The forest behind the gas station looks even darker, and I get the feeling that something is watching us from the tree. Walk up to the door and see that it's locked and covered in dust. There are old posters peeling off the walls, and the windows are so dirty I can't see inside. I knock on the glass, but there's no answer. I hear footsteps behind me and turn around, but it's just Mike standing by the car looking nervous. The others stay inside with the doors locked. I try to look brave, but my heart is racing. I hear a strange sound coming from the woods behind the building, like branches snapping or something moving through the undergrowth. I call out, but no one answers. The feeling of being watched gets stronger, and I start to regret stopping here. Hurry back to the car and tell everyone to lock the doors. We sit there for a few minutes, not saying anything, just listening to the sounds outside. The fog seems to get thicker, and the darkness feels like it's closing in around us. I start the engine, and we drive away without looking back, but the sense of unease stays with us after leaving the gas station. We drive for a while in silence. The fog is even thicker now, and the road feels like it's closing in on us. Suddenly, Jess says she needs to stop and get some air. She looks pale, and her hands are shaking. I pull over to the side of the road, and she gets out with a flashlight. The rest of us stay near the car watching her as she walks a few steps toward the edge of the forest. The trees look even darker and more twisted up close, and the flashlight beam barely makes a dent in the mist. Jess stands there for a moment, just staring into the woods, like she's listening for something. Zara calls out to her, but Jess doesn't answer. Mike says maybe we should all get back in the car, but I can tell he's scared too. I walk a little closer and ask Jess if she's okay. She finally turns around and says she thought she heard someone calling her name from the trees. Her voice is shaky, and she looks like she's about to cry. I tell her it's just the wind, but I don't really believe it myself. The air feels colder, and I can hear something moving in the undergrowth just out of sight. Suddenly, there's a loud snap, like a branch breaking deep in the woods. Jess jumps and drops the flashlight. For a second, the beam swings wildly across the trees, and I think I see a shadow move between the trunks. I grab her arm, and we hurry back to the car. The others are already inside with the doors locked. I start the engine, and we drive away as fast as we can, but the feeling that something is following us doesn't go away. One talks for a long time, and the only sound is the tires on the wet road and our own breathing. I keep checking the mirrors, but all I see is fog and darkness. We drive in silence for a long time. After what happened by the woods, no one wants to talk about what Jess saw or the shadow that moved between the trees. The fog is so thick now that I can barely see the lines on the road. The headlights only light up a few feet ahead, and everything else is swallowed by darkness. I keep glancing in the rearview mirror, and for a moment, I think I see a figure standing far behind us in the fog. But when I look again, it's Sarah sits in the back seat, hugging her knees to her chest. She keeps asking if we're almost there, but no one really knows how much farther we have to go. Tries to check the GPS, but it keeps losing signal, and the map just spins. Jess stares out the window, not saying anything, her face pale and her hands still shaking. I try to focus on driving, but my mind keeps going back to the feeling that something is following us. The road feels endless, and every mile we drive, The sense of dread gets stronger. The trees on both sides seem to press closer and closer, like they're trying to block us in. The air inside the car is cold and heavy, and I can hear everyone's breathing getting faster. I turn up the radio hoping for some music to break the tension, but all I get is static and faint whispers that sound almost like voices. Start to wonder if we're really alone out here, or if something is out there in the fog, watching us, waiting for us to stop. I grip the steering wheel tighter and try to ignore the fear building in my chest, but it's getting harder with every mile. The feeling of being watched never goes away, and I can't shake the thought that whatever is out there is getting close. The car starts making a strange noise, and I feel the engine losing power. I pull over to the side of the road and turn on the hazard lights. The fog is so thick outside that the blinking lights barely make a difference. Mike says he smells something burning, and I see steam rising from under the hood. I get out with a flashlight and open the hood, trying to see what's wrong. The cold air hits me, and the silence is so deep it feels like the whole world has stopped. Sarah and Jess stay inside the car, watching me through the fogged up windows. I can see the worrying on their faces. I check the engine, but I don't really know what I'm looking for. The flashlight beam cuts through the steam, and I see something dripping onto the ground. I tell myself it's just water from the radiator, but it looks darker, thicker. I hear a branch snap in the woods behind me, and I freeze for a second. I shine the light toward the trees, but all I see is fog and Shadosi. Call out to see if anyone is there, but there's no answer, just the sound of my own voice echoing back at me. I feel like something is watching me from the darkness. I hurry back to the car and lock the doors. Mike says we should wait a few minutes and try the engine again, but no one really wants to stay here any longer than we have to. Inside the car, the air feels even colder, and the windows are completely fogged up now. I wipe the glass and look out at the trees, and for a split second I think I see a figure standing between the trunks, just watching us. I blink and it's gone, but the fear stays. I try to start the engine again, and this time it turns over, but the noise is louder and rougher than before. We all agree to keep moving even if the car doesn't sound right. None of us want to be stuck out here in the middle of nowhere with whatever is out there in the fog. Will turn a sharp corner, and suddenly the headlights reveal a fallen tree blocking the road. The car skids to a stop, and for a moment no one says anything. The fog is so thick we can barely see the edges of the road. The tree looks old and heavy, like it's been there 4 years, but I know it wasn't there a few minutes ago. Mike says we should turn around, but when I look in the mirror, the road behind us is gone, swallowed by the mist. Jess starts to panic and says we're trapped. Sarah tries to call for help, but her phone still has no signal. Get out of the car to check the tree, and the cold air hits me like a wall. The forest is silent except for the sound of my own footsteps on the wet pavement. Shine the flashlight on the tree and see deep scratch marks in the bark, like something huge tried to tear it apart. I hear a rustling sound in the bushes and freeze. I look up and see a pair of glowing eyes staring at me from the darkness just beyond the tree. I can't tell if it's an animal or something else, but the fear is so strong I can barely breathe. I hurry back to the car and lock the doors. The others are staring at me, waiting for an answer, but I don't know what to say. The headlights shine on the fallen tree, and the fog swirls around it like it's alive. I feel trapped and hunted, like something out there is waiting for us to make a mistake. The sense of dread is stronger than ever, and I start to wonder if we'll ever get off this roadie. Step out of the car again and walk slowly toward the fallen tree. The fog is so thick I can barely see my own feet. The beam of my flashlight moves across the bark, and I notice strange symbols carved deep into the wood. They look old and unnatural, like something out of a nightmare. I reach out to touch one of the marks, and the bark feels cold and wet under my fingers. Suddenly, I hear a whisper behind me, so soft I can't make out the words. I turn around quickly, but there's nothing there, just the swirling mist and the dark shapes of the trees. I shine the light into the forest, and for a moment, I see a shadowy figure standing just beyond the tree line. It doesn't move or make a sound. It just stands there watching me. Heart is pounding and I can feel sweat on my forehead. Even though the air is freezing, I call out to the others, but my voice sounds small and weak. Mike shouts from the car asking if I see anything, but I can't Answer: I'm too scared to move. The symbols on the tree seem to glow faintly in the light, and the fog feels like it's pressing in around me. Jess honks the horn, and the sound echoes through the forest, breaking the silence. I snap out of it and run back to the car, slamming the door behind me. Everyone is talking at once, asking what I saw, but I can't find the words to explain. The fear in the car, almost overwhelming, and I realize we are completely alone out here with no way to go forward and no way to go back. The sense of being watched is stronger than ever, and I know that whatever is out there is getting closer. We sit in the car with the doors locked and the windows rolled up. The headlights shine on the fallen tree, and the strange symbols seem to glow brighter in the fog. No one says anything for a long time. We all just listen to the sound of our own breathing and the faint static from the radio. Jess keeps looking out the back window, like she's expecting something to appear. Tries to call for help again, but his phone still has no signal. Sarah is shaking and I can see tears in her eyes. Try to stay calm, but my hands are trembling on the steering wheel. I keep glancing at the tree and the forest beyond it. The fog is so thick now that the world outside the car feels unreal and distant. I think about trying to move the tree, but the fear of what might be hiding in the woods keeps me frozen in my seat. Suddenly, I see movement in the trees just beyond the fallen trunk. First it looks like shadows shifting in the mist, but then I realize there are figures standing between the trees. Their eyes glow faintly in the darkness, and they don't move or make a sound. They just watch us from the edge of the forest, whisper to the others to look, but no one wants to see. Mike finally turns and catches a glimpse of the figures, and I see the color drain from his face. Jess starts to cry quietly and Sarah covers her mouth to keep from screaming. The sense of being trapped is overwhelming, and I feel like the air inside the car is getting thinner with every breath. Figures in the woods don't come any closer, but I can feel their eyes on us. The fear is so strong it's hard to think straight. I know we can't stay here, but I don't know what will happen if we try to leave. The only thing I know for sure that we are not alone on this road, and whatever is out there is waiting for us to make a move. There inside the car feels heavy, and every breath is harder to take. The headlights are still shining on the fallen tree, and the strange symbols seem to pulse with a faint light. The fog outside is so thick it's like a wall pressing against the windows. I can see the shadowy figures at the edge of the road now. They are closer than before, standing just beyond the reach of the headlights. Their eyes glow in the darkness and their shapes are barely human. Sarah whispers that we need to do something, but no one knows what to do. Mike says we should try to drive around the tree, but the road is too narrow and the forest is too close. Jess is crying and keeps saying she wants to go home to think of a plan, but my mind is racing and the fear is making it hard to focus. The figures, and for a moment I think I see one of them move closer. The mist swirls around their feet, and I can hear a faint whispering sound coming from the woods. It's not in any language I recognize, but it makes my skin crawl. I reach for the door handle, but I can't bring myself to open it. The sense of danger is so strong it feels like a physical force holding me. In Placio radio turns on by itself, and a voice comes through the static. It's low and distorted, but I can make out a few words. It says, "You shouldn't have come here." The message repeats over and over until I turn the radio off. The fear in the car almost unbearable now, and I realize we are completely surrounded with no way to escape. I look at my friends and see the same terror in their eyes. We're trapped and whatever is out there is getting closer. Shadowy figures are closer now. They stand on both sides of the road, just outside the reach of the headlights. Their eyes glow in the darkness and their faces are hidden by the mist. I can feel their attention on us, like a weight pressing down on my chest. The fear in the car is so strong that no one can speak. Jess is shaking and Sarah is holding her hand so tightly her knuckles are white. Mike keeps looking from the front window to the back like he's expecting something to break through the glass. He tries to start the car again, but the engine only sputters and dies. The dashboard lights flicker and the radio turns on by itself. The same distorted voice comes through the static repeating the words, "You shouldn't have come here," over and over. The message is louder now, and it feels like it's coming from inside my own head. I turn the radio off, but the words keep echoing in my mind. Outside the car the figures don't move, but I can see their shapes more clearly now. They are tall and thin with long arms, and their bodies seem to shift and blur in the fog. I see one of them raise a hand and point toward the car. The others follow, and for a moment, I think they are going to rush us. My heart is pounding so hard I can barely. Breathless starts to pray under her breath, and Jess closes her eyes. Mike grabs my arm and says we have to do something, but I don't know what to do. The sense of being trapped is overwhelming, and I feel like the air inside the car is running out. I look at my friends and see the terror in their faces. We are surrounded, and there is no way out. The only thing I can do is hold on and hope that whatever is out there will let us go. Figures are so close. Now I can see the outline of their bodies through the fog. Their eyes glow brighter, and their faces are still hidden in shadow. One of them stands right in front of the car with a long arm stretched out, pointing directly at us. The others are moving slowly closer, their shapes shifting. In the mist, the fear inside the car is so strong it feels like we can't. Breathless is crying quietly, and Jess is shaking so hard I can hear her teeth chattering. Mike keeps whispering that this can't be real, but I know it is. I try to start the car again, but the engine won't turn over. The headlights flicker, and the dashboard lights go out for a moment, plunging us into darkness. The only light left is the faint glow from the symbols on the fallen tree. Look out the window and see one of the figures just a few feet away. Its eyes are fixed on me, and I feel a cold wave of dread wash over me, and hear a low whispering sound coming from the forest, like voices speaking in a language I understand. The mist is so thick now that I can barely see the road or the tree's. Radio turns on by itself again, and the same voice repeats, "You shouldn't have come here." The message is louder and more urgent this time. I block it out, but the words echo in my mind. I look at my friends and see the terror in their eyes. We are trapped, and there is nowhere to run. The only thing I can do is hold on and hope that whatever is out there will let us go. Figures outside the car don't move any closer, but I can feel their eyes watching us, waiting for something to happen. The fear is overwhelming, and I start to wonder if we will ever get off this road alive. You finally decide we can't just sit in the car any longer. The fear of what's outside is almost as strong as the fear of staying trapped. We all get out and try to push the car off the road, but the wheels are stuck deep in the mud. Our shoes sink into the wet ground, and our hands are covered in dirt and cold water. The forest around us is silent except for the sound of our struggle and the occasional snap of a branch. The darkness slips and falls in the mud, and Jess helps her up. Both of them are shaking, and I can see the panic in their eyes. Mike keeps looking over his shoulder toward the trees. I know he's seeing the same thing I am. His shadows between the trunks. There are figures standing perfectly still. Their eyes glow faintly in the mist, and they don't move or make a sound or push harder. But the car doesn't budge. The mud is too thick, and the ground feels like it's pulling us down with every step. I have to call out for help, but my voice sounds small and lost in the fog. The sense of being watched is overwhelming, and I can feel the fear building in my chest. Suddenly, I hear a whisper right behind me, so close it feels like someone is standing at my shoulder. I spin around, but there's nothing there, just the mist and the silent figures watching from the edge of the clearing. I realize we are completely alone out here, with no way to get the car free and no way to escape. The eyes in the darkness. The fear is so strong it's hard to breathe, and I start to wonder if we'll ever make it out of these woods alive. We get separated in the darkness, and the fog makes it almost impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. I call out for the others, but my voice is swallowed by the mist. My flashlight beam shakes as I move through the trees. Every shadow looks like it could be something waiting to grab me. The ground is uneven, and I trip over roots and fallen branches with every step. I hear Sarah's voice somewhere in the distance calling my name, but it sounds far away and muffled. I try to follow the sound, but the forest seems to twist and change around me. The trees are old, and their trunks are covered in strange carvings that look like symbols from a nightmare. I stop for a moment to catch my breath and listen, but all I can hear is my own heartbeat and the soft rustling of leaves. Suddenly, I see a figure moving between the trees at the edge of my flashlight beam. I call out thinking it's one of my friends, but the figure doesn't answer. It just stands there watching me with eyes that glow faintly in the darkness. I feel a wave of cold fear wash over me, and I take a step back, try to call for help again, but my voice is weak and shaky. The sense of being watched is stronger than ever, and I can feel the fear building inside me. I know I have to find the others, but every direction the same. In the fog I start to move again, flashlight barely lighting the way, and I hope that I'm not walking deeper into the woods and closer to whatever is out there waiting for you. See, crouched behind a fallen log, trying to catch my breath. My heart is pounding so loud, I'm afraid whatever is out there can hear it too. My flashlight slipped from my hand when I tripped, and now it lies on the ground, casting a thin beam of light across the tangled roots and wet leaves. I can see my breath in the cold air, and every sound in the forest seems louder than before. Somewhere nearby I hear footsteps running through the undergrowth. I look up and see one of my friends darting between the trees, their face pale and full of fear. I want to call out, but I'm too scared to make a sound. I press myself closer to the ground, hoping the shadows will hide. Mist is so thick now that I can barely see more than a few feet in any direction. I hear a low whispering sound coming from the darkness, and I realize it's not just the wind. The voices are soft and strange, like they're speaking in a language understand. I look around and see several pairs of glowing eyes watching me from behind the trees. The figures don't move, but I can feel their attention or weight pressing down on me. I try to stay as still as possible, but my hands are shaking and my legs feel weak. I know, stay hidden forever, but I'm too afraid to move. I keep hoping the others are safe, but I have no way of knowing where they are or if they're even still alive. The fear is so strong it's hard to think straight, and I start to wonder if I'll ever make it out of these woods. Scramble up a steep muddy hill, grabbing onto roots and rocks to keep from sliding back down. My hands are cold and covered in dirt, and my clothes are torn from running through the forest. Every muscle in my body aches, but I know I can't stop. I can hear something moving behind me in the fog, and every time I look back I see those glowing eyes getting closer. At the top of the hill is see the outline of an old wooden cabin, barely visible through the mist. The windows are dark and broken, and the roof looks like it's about to collapse, but right now it's the only place that looks even a little bit safe. I force myself to keep moving, pulling myself up the last few feet until I reach the edge of the clearing. Back down the hill and see several shadowy figures emerging from the trees. Their eyes glow in the darkness, and they move slowly but steadily toward me. I can hear the whispering voices again, louder and now and closer than before. The fear is so strong it feels like my heart might stop. Stumble toward the cabin, hoping the door isn't locked. I can barely breathe as I reach the porch and grab the handle. The wood is cold and rough under my fingers, and for a moment I'm afraid it won't open. I look back one last time and see the figures at the edge of the clearing watching me in silence. I know I have to get inside before they reach me. I push open the old wooden door, and it creaks loudly in the silence. The inside of the cabin is dark and cold, the air thick with dust and the smell of rotting wood. My flashlight barely lights up the room, but I can see broken furniture scattered across the floor and cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. The floorboards creak under my feet, and I move carefully, afraid they might give way. Close the door behind me and lean against it, trying to catch my breath. My heart is pounding and my hands are shaking. I listen for any sound from outside, but all I can hear is the wind and the distant whispering voices. I move deeper into the cabin, shining my light into the corners, looking for anything that might help me hide or defend myself. A single beam of moonlight shines through a cracked window, casting strange shadows on the walls. I look out and see the shadowy figures standing at the edge of the clearing. Their eyes glow in the darkness, and they don't move or make a sound. They just watch the cabin in silence. I search the room for anything useful, but all I find are broken chairs and an old table covered in dust. I try to block the door with a piece of furniture, but it feels flimsy and weak. I know it won't hold for long if something tries to get in. The fear is almost overwhelming, and I start to wonder if I'm safer inside the cabin or out in the woods. Sit down on the floor and try to calm my breathing. The silence inside the cabin is heavy, and every creak and groan of the old wood makes me jump. I know, stay here forever, but for now it's the only place that feels even a little bit safe. I keep my eyes on the door and hope that whatever is out there will lose interest and go away. Sit on the dusty floor near the door, clutching a broken chair leg in my hands. It's the only thing I could find that might help if something tries to get in. The room is cold, and every sound seems to echo off the old wooden walls. My flashlight beam moves across the floor, and I see old faded photographs scattered in the dust. The faces in the pictures are blurred and strange, like they don't belong to anyone I've ever seen. I try to calm my breathing, but every time the wind rattles the window I jump. The moonlight coming through the cracked glass makes the shadows on the walls look like they're moving. I keep glancing at the door and the window, afraid that any second something will break through. I hear a soft tapping sound and turn to see several shadowy figures pressed against the window. Their glowing eyes stare into the cabin, and their faces are hidden in darkness. The mist outside swirls around them, making it hard to tell how many there are. I feel completely trapped, and the fear is so strong it's hard to think. I look at the photographs again and notice that some of the faces look familiar, almost like they could be us. I wonder if other people have been trapped here before, and if anyone ever made it out. I try to remember the way back to the road, but everything outside is just fog and darkness. Tapping on the window gets louder, and I can see the glass starting to crack. I grip the chair leg tighter and try to prepare myself for whatever is about to happen. The only thing I can do now is wait and hope that the door and windows will hold long enough for the night to end. The window finally shatters and cold mist pours into the room. I scramble back into the darkest corner, gripping the broken chair leg as tight as I can. The flashlight shakes in my hand, and the beam jumps across the walls, catching glimpses of the shadowy figures climbing through the broken glass. Their glowing eyes lock onto me, and their hands reach out with long thin fingers that scrape against the wood. I try to scream, but my voice catches in my throat. The fear is so strong I can barely breathe. The old photographs on the floor are scattered, and some are torn. As the figures move closer, the faces in the pictures seem to twist and change in the moonlight, almost as if they're watching what's happening. The mist fills the room, and the air turns icy cold. I can hear the whispering voices all around me now, louder than ever. They speak in a language I can't understand, but the meaning is clear. I am not supposed to be here. To swing the chair leg at the nearest figure, but it passes right through like they're made of smoke. Figures keep coming, their eyes never leaving mine. I press myself against the wall, hoping for a way out, but there's nowhere left to hide. The fear is overwhelming, and I start to wonder if this is how it ends. The only thing I can do is hold on and hope that someone will find me before it's too late. I crawl across the creaking floor, my hands shaking as I try to stay out of reach of the figures climbing through the broken window. The mist is so thick now I can barely see the other side of the room. The flashlight flickers, and every shadow seems to move on its own. The whispering voices are louder than ever, filling my head with fear and confusion. I spot a trapdoor in the corner, half hidden under a pile of old photographs. I scramble toward it, my heart pounding. As the figures reach for me, their hands brush against my back, cold and weightless, like a chill running through my bones. I grab the edge of the trapdoor and pull, but it's stuck tight. I can feel the floorboards bending under my weight, and I'm afraid they might give way. Figures are almost on top of me now, their glowing eyes fixed on mine. I use all my strength to yank the trapdoor open, and a rush of cold air hits my face. I don't think I just dive into the darkness below, hoping it leads somewhere safe. The last thing I see before I fall is the figures reaching down after me, their hands stretching longer and longer as if they'll never let me go. I land hard on a dirt floor below the cabin. The darkness is complete, and the only sound is my own ragged breathing. Still hear the whispering voices above me, and the sound of the figures moving around in the room. I know I can't stay here for long, but for a moment, I just lie there trying to catch my breath, and hoping the nightmare will end. I lie on the cold dirt floor for a moment, trying to catch my breath. The darkness is so complete I can barely see my own hands. I reach for the flashlight, and the weak beam barely lights up the space around me. The walls are made of old stone, and thick roots hang down from the ceiling. Twisted fingers hear the sound of footsteps above me, and the whispering voices are still there, echoing through the floorboards. I know the figures are searching for me, and I feel completely trapped. I look around and spot a rusty metal door in the corner of the basement. It's half open, and behind it I can see a narrow tunnel leading into even deeper darkness. I crawl toward the door, my hands shaking as I move across the dirt floor. The air is cold and damp, and every breath feels heavy. I see faint claw marks on the stone walls, and wonder what else has been trapped down here before me. The fear is almost overwhelming, but I know I can stay in this basement. Push the door open, and the hinges creak loudly. The tunnel beyond is narrow, and the darkness feels alive. I take one last look back at the basement, and then crawl into the tunnel, hoping it leads somewhere safe. The only thing I can hear now is my own heartbeat, and the distant sound of the figures moving above me. I keep crawling forward into the darkness, not knowing what I'll find, but knowing I have no other choice. I crawl through the narrow tunnel, my knees scraping against the rough dirt floor. The ceiling is so low I have to keep my head down, and thick roots brush against my back with every movement. The air is cold and damp, and every breath tastes like earth and fear. My flashlight is almost dead, and the weak beam barely lights the way ahead. The tunnel twists and turns, and I have no idea where it leads. I keep moving forward, because going back is not an option. Every sound echoes in the darkness, and I can hear something moving behind me. I don't dare look back, but I can feel the presence of something following me in the shadows. My hands are shaking and my heart is pounding so hard it hurts. I try to move faster, but the tunnel is so tight I can barely squeeze through in some places. The fear of getting stuck is almost as strong as the fear of what's behind me. I keep crawling, hoping to find a way out after what feels like forever. I see a faint light glowing at a bend in the tunnel. I don't know if it's real or just my mind playing tricks on me, but I move toward it as fast as I can. The whispering voices are still there, but now they sound farther away. I keep telling myself that if I can just reach the light, I might be safe. The tunnel seems to go on forever, and every time I think I'm getting closer, the light seems to move farther away. Can feel the dirt closing in around me, and the sense of being trapped is almost overwhelming. But I keep crawling, because it's the only hope I have left. I keep crawling through the tunnel, my knees and hands raw from the rough dirt. The air is so thick and heavy, it feels like I'm breathing through a wet cloth. The flashlight in my hand is almost dead, and the beam flickers with every movement. I can hear something behind me scraping and whispering in the darkness, but I don't dare look back. Ahead of me a strange blue light glows at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't look natural, and it makes the shadows on the walls twist and move. I feel a cold breeze coming from the light, and it sends chills down my spine. All faster, desperate to reach the end before whatever is behind me catches up. Roots hanging from the ceiling brush against my back, and I can feel the tunnel getting tighter with every foot I move forward. My heart is pounding so hard I can barely hear anything else. I keep telling myself that if I can just reach the light, I might be safer. As I get closer to the blue glow, I see ghostly hands reaching out from the walls behind me. Their fingers are long and thin, and they move slowly, as if they're trying to grab me. I push myself forward as fast as I can, my breath coming in short gasps. The fear is so strong, it feels like it's crushing my chest. Blue light gets brighter, and I can see the end of the tunnel just ahead. I don't know what's waiting for me on the other side, but I know I have to keep moving. I reach out for the light, hoping it's not just another nightmare waiting to pull me in. I finally reach the end of the tunnel and pull myself into a hidden chamber. The air is colder here, and the blue light is so bright it hurts my eyes. The room is circular, with ancient stone walls covered in strange symbols I have never seen before. The floor is cracked and uneven, and every step echoes in the silence. In the center of the chamber stands a huge old mirror with a tarnished frame. The blue light seems to pour out from the glass itself, casting strange shadows on the walls. I stand at the entrance for a moment, trying to catch my breath. My clothes are torn and my hands are shaking, but I know I can't go back. The tunnel behind me is filled with ghostly hands and faces pressing out from the dirt, their eyes glowing with hunger. Move closer to the mirror drawn by the light, even though every instinct tells me to run. The surface of the glass ripples like water, and I can see shapes moving inside, reflections that don't match my own. Reach out a hand, and the air around the mirror feels icy cold. Whispering voices are louder now, swirling around the chamber and filling my head with fear. I try to look away, but the mirror pulls me in. I see flashes of memories that aren't mine, faces I don't recognize, and places I have never been. The fear is overwhelming. But I can't move. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of something ancient and dangerous. And I know that whatever happens next will change everything. I step away from the broken mirror and find myself standing at the edge of a deep pit in the center of the chamber. The blue and white light swirls inside the pit like a living storm. Strange roots and old bones are tangled around the edge, and the air above the pit feels cold and electric. You look down and see ghostly hands reaching up from the glowing depths, their fingers stretched toward me as if they're trying to pull me in. Feel dizzy and my heart is racing. The whispering voices are louder and now echoing up from the pit and filling the chamber with fear. Behind me, the tunnel entrance is blocked by shadowy figures with glowing eyes. They don't move, but I can feel their attention pressing down on me. I realize there's no way back, and the only way out might be through whatever is at the bottom of this pit. I kneel at the edge and try to see how deep it goes, but the light is so bright it hurts my eyes. The fear is overwhelming, but I know I can't stay here. The chamber feels smaller, and the air is thick with dread. I take a deep breath and prepare myself to face whatever is waiting in the darkness below. I tie together old sheets and roots to make a rope and lower myself slowly into the glowing pit. The light is so bright it makes my eyes water, and the air feels colder with every foot I descend. My hands shake, I grip the rope, and my feet search for a place to rest on the slick stone wall. Pit is deeper than I thought, and the blue and white light swirls around me like living mist. I see ghostly faces and hands moving in the glow, their eyes watching me as I climb down. I try not to look at them, but it's impossible to ignore the feeling of being surrounded by lost souls. Water drips from the ceiling, and the sound echoes in the darkness above me. I glance up and see the shattered mirror, and the blocked tunnel entrance growing smaller and smaller. The only way out now is down, and I have no idea what's waiting for me at the bottom. Rope creaks and I worrying it might snap, but I keep going. The fear is so strong it feels like a weight on my chest, but I force myself to keep moving. The strange symbols on the stone walls glow faintly as I pass, and the whispering voices grow louder, filling my head with words I can't understand. As I get closer to the bottom, the light gets brighter, and the air feels electric. I'm about to face something I can't explain, but there's no turning back now. I take a deep breath and prepare myself for whatever is waiting in the glowing mist below. We reach the bottom of the pit and step onto uneven stone ground. The blue and white mist swirls around my legs, and I can feel the cold seeping through me. Those ghostly hands and faces float in the mist, some of them reaching out as if they want to pull me under. I try to ignore them, but the fear is so strong it's hard to breathe. The walls of the pit are held in ancient symbols and strange carvings that glow faintly in the light from my flashlight. I move slowly through the mist, my heart pounding with every step. In the center of the pit, I see a stone altar with a cracked old book resting on top. The book looks ancient, and the cover is covered in dust and strange markings. I approach the altar, and the whispering voices grow louder, filling the air with words I can't understand. The shadows in the mist move on their own, and I feel like I'm being watched from every direction. I reach out and touch the book, and the air around me turns icy cold as I open the book. The pages are filled with symbols and drawings that make no sense to me. The writing seems to move and shift on the page. If it's alive, I try to read the words, but they blur and twist in the blue light. The fear builds inside me, and I start to wonder if I've found the answer to what's happening, or if I've just unleashed something even worse around the pit, and realize I'm standing at the heart of something ancient and dangerous. The mist thickens, and the ghostly hands reach closer. I know I have to make a choice, but I don't know what will happen if I stay or if I try to escape. I stand at the altar with the old book open in my hands. The pages glow with a blue light that makes the symbols and drawings shift and move as if they're alive. The mist swirls around my legs, and ghostly hands reach up from the ground, trying to grab my ankles. I try to focus on the book, but the fear is so strong it's hard to think. The altar is covered in strange symbols that pulse with light every time I turn a page. The walls of the pit are lined with carvings of faces twisted in terror, and creatures that look like they came from a nightmare. The shadows on the wall move and stretch toward me as if they're alive and hungry. Try to read the words on the page, but they blur and twist in the blue glow. The whispering voices are louder now, filling my head with words I can almost understand. I feel like I'm on the edge of discovering something terrible. Something that was never meant to be found. I look back at the tunnel, but the way out is gone, swallowed by the mist. The only thing left is the altar and the book in my hands. I know I have to make a choice, but I don't know what will happen if I keep reading or if I try to run. The fear is overwhelming, and I can feel the eyes of the ghostly faces watching me, waiting to see what I'll do next. I stand frozen in front of the altar, the open book in my hands glowing brighter with every second. The blue mist rises from the pages and forms ghostly faces that swirl above the altar. Their eyes are wide with fear, and their mouths move in silence. Screams. The air is so cold, it burns my skin, and every breath feels heavy. The stone walls around me pulse with light as the ancient symbols glow and shift. The ground beneath my feet is cracked, and I can feel ghostly hands reaching up from the mist, trying to pull me down. I try to step back, but my legs won't move. The fear is so strong it feels like I'm trapped in a nightmare. In me, the shadows on the wall have changed. They're no longer just shapes, but monstrous creatures with glowing eyes. Their bodies twist and stretch along the stone, their eyes fixed on me, and feel their hunger and their anger pressing in from all sides. The voices in my head are louder now, almost deafening. They whisper secrets and warnings in a language I almost understand. I know I've awakened something ancient and dangerous, and there's no way to undo what I've done. The faces in the mist watch me with a mix of pity and terror, as if they know what's coming next. I grip the book tighter and try to find the courage to move, but the fear is overwhelming. I realize I'm completely surrounded by ancient evil, and the only way out might be to face whatever I've unleashed. The book lifts out of my hands and floats above the altar. Blue mist pours from its pages and wraps around me like cold blood smoke. The faces in the mist are screaming, but I can't hear any sound. The ancient symbols on the walls pulse with blinding light, and the whole chamber shakes as if the earth itself is afraid. The ground cracks open beneath my feet, and thin shadowy arms reach out, grabbing at my legs. I try to pull away, but the mist is so thick it can barely move. The monstrous shadows on the walls are no longer just shapes. They crawl down the stone, their glowing eyes locked on me. Their bodies twist and stretch as they move closer. Voices in my head are deafening now. They shout warnings and threats in a language almost understand. I feel like I'm being pulled in every direction at once. The fear is so strong it's hard to breathe, and my heart feels like it might stop. I reach for the book, but it's out of reach. Spinning above the altar, the blue light grows brighter, and the mist swirls faster. The faces in the mist look desperate and afraid, as if they're begging me to do something. I try to scream, but no sound comes out. Chamber is filled with chaos and terror, and I realize I'm completely at the mercy of whatever I've unleashed. The only thing I can do is hold on and hope that I can survive whatever happens next. Mist wraps tighter around my body, and the shadowy arms pull me closer to the altar. I try to fight, but my strength is gone. The book floats above the stone, glowing so bright I can barely see. The faces in the mist twist in agony, their eyes pleading for help, but I can't do anything for them. Monstrous shadows crawl across the altar, their glowing eyes fixed on me. Their hands reach out, and I feel their cold touch on my skin. The ancient symbols on the walls pulse so violently, the whole chamber shakes. The ground cracks wider, and the air is filled with a deep rumbling sound. I feel myself being dragged forward, as if the whole room is tilting toward the altar. The blue light from the book grows even brighter, and the mist swirls faster around me. The voices in my head are screaming now, a mix of warnings and threats that make no sense. The chamber bends and twists as if reality itself is breaking apart. I reach out for anything to hold on to, but my hands pass through the mist and shadows. I feel like I'm being pulled out of my own body, dragged into another world where nothing makes sense. Fear is overwhelming, and I realize I have no control over what's happening. I can only hope that whatever is waiting on the other side is not worse than what I've already seen. The mist lifts me higher above the altar, and I feel my body growing lighter and heavier at the same time. The air is filled with a roar that shakes the stone walls, and the book spins above me, its pages turning so fast they blur into a circle of blue and red light. The ancient symbols on the walls glow brighter, shifting from blue to blood red, and the cracks spread across the chamber like lightning. making the whole place feel like it is about to collapse below me. The shadow creatures climb the walls, their eyes fixed on me, as if waiting for a signal. Their bodies twist and stretch, moving in ways that do not seem possible, and see their long arms reaching out, their fingers scraping against the stone, leaving trails of darkness behind. The fear inside me is so strong it feels like my heart might stop at any moment. The voices in my head are screaming 1,000 whispers all at once, and I see flashes of memories that do not belong to me, faces and places I have never seen rush past my eyes. Old highways at night, strangers staring from the side of the road, accidents and disappearances, stories I have only heard in nightmares. I realize I am seeing the history of this place, all the people who have been lost here before me, all the secrets buried under the road. The chamber bends and twists as if reality itself is breaking, and I realize I am caught in something much bigger than myself. The air grows colder, and I can see my breath swirling in the mist. I try to scream, but the sound is lost in the chaos. My body feels like it is being pulled in every direction, but once stretched thin by forces I cannot see or understand. Suddenly, the book stops spinning and hovers directly above me. The pages open wide, and a beam of blue light shoots down, surrounding me in a column of cold energy. I feel my thoughts slipping away, replaced by images of the road, the car, my friends, and the endless night. I see myself driving in circles, never able to escape, always coming back to the same haunted stretch of highway. The shadow creatures below begin to chant in a language not understand, their voices echoing off the stone walls. The cracks in the chamber widen, and chunks of rock fall from the ceiling, crashing to the floor in clouds of dust. The altar glows with a deep red light, and I feel myself being pulled closer, as if the whole room is collapsing inward. I look down and see my own reflection in the polished stone of the altar. My face is pale, and my eyes are wide with terror. But there is something else there too, a shadow moving behind my eyes, something ancient and hungry. I realize that whatever is happening to me has happened before, and it will happen again. This place is a trap, a wound in the world that never heals. The roar grows louder, and the light from the book becomes blinding. I feel myself slipping away, my memories fading, my sense of self dissolving into the mist. I try to hold on to something, anything, but there is nothing left except the fear and the endless night. The last thing I see before everything goes dark is the book closing itself, the blue and red light fading into blackness, and the shadow creatures reaching up to catch me as I fall. I am floating in darkness, weightless and lost. There is no ground, no sky, just endless blackness and swirling blue mist around me. I see ghostly images spinning through the void, the car headlights cutting through thick fog, the faces of my friends laughing and then screaming, the sound of tires on wet pavement, the radio playing a song. Remember, the memories spin around me faster and faster, and I reach out trying to grab hold of something real, but my hands pass through the mist like it is made of smoke. Shadowy hands reach out from the darkness, their fingers cold and empty. They brush against my skin, and I feel a chill run through my whole body. I try to call out for help, but my voice is swallowed by the void. There is no echo, only silence, and the distant sound of someone crying. I see flashes of the road trip, the long empty highway at night, the green sign for Devil's Pass, the fog rolling in, the feeling that something was watching us. Even then I see my friends' faces again, Sarah smiling in the back seat, Mike making a joke, just looking out the window lost in thought. Then the images twist and their faces change, their eyes go blank and their mouths open in silent screams. I try to turn away, but the memories follow me everywhere. I look, the blue mist forms a spiral around me, pulling me deeper into the darkness. I feel like I am falling and floating at the same time. The fear is different here. It is not just about what is chasing me, but about losing myself completely. I wonder if I will ever find my way back, or if I am trapped here forever. I try to remember who I am and why I came here, but the memories slip away like water through my fingers. The void feels endless, and the only thing I can do is keep moving through the darkness, hoping that somewhere ahead there is a way out, or at least an answer to what has happened to us. I find myself standing on the highway again, but everything is wrong. The road is cracked and broken, and pieces of it hang in the air as if gravity has stopped working. The car is there with the doors open, headlights flickering, but it looks abandoned and empty. The blue mist swirls around my feet, and every step I take feels heavy, like I am walking through water. The forest on both sides is twisted, the trees have faces carved into their bark. Their hollow eyes follow me as I move down the road. I try to call out for my friends, but my voice sounds strange and distant, like it is coming from someone else. Ghostly figures line the roadside, their bodies half hidden in the mist. Their faces are blank, and their eyes are empty. They do not move, but I can feel their attention pressing down on me. The sky above is a swirling vortex of shadows, and I can hear a low rumbling sound, like thunder in the distance. I walk toward the car, hoping to find something familiar, but the closer I get, the more distorted everything becomes. The car stretches and twists its shape, changing in the blue light. I reach for the door, but my hand passes through it like it is made of smoke. I look inside and see flashes of memories, the laughter from earlier in the night, the fear when we saw the figure by the road, the panic when we realized we were lost. The images spin around me, and I feel dizzy. I try to focus on the road ahead, but it keeps shifting and changing. The lines twist and curl into strange symbols that glow in the darkness. I look back at the forest, and the faces in the trees seem to smile, their mouths stretching wide. I feel a wave of fear wash over me, and I start to run, but the road stretches out in front of me. No matter how fast I move, I cannot reach the end. The ghostly figures on the roadside begin to move, their heads turning to watch me. As I pass, their eyes glowing faintly in the mist, I realize I am trapped in a nightmare version of reality, and there is no way to wake up. The fear is overwhelming, and I wonder if I will ever escape this place, or if I am doomed to wander these haunted roads forever. Walk slowly toward the car, hoping to find my friends, but the seats are empty, and the silence is heavy. I look into the rearview mirror and see their faces staring back at me, their eyes empty and their expressions blank. I reach for the door, but the blue mist seeps through the windows and chills my skin. Or at their names, but there is no answer, only the echo of my own voice and the sound of the wind in the trees. The road behind me is gone, swallowed by darkness, and the forest on both sides seems to lean in closer, as if it is listening to every word I say. I look at my reflection in the car window, and it is twisted and unrecognizable. My face stretches and shifts in the blue light, and for a moment I do not know who I am. The ghostly figures move closer from all sides, their bodies half hidden in the mist, their eyes fixed on me. I feel their presence pressing in, and I realize I am not just lost on the road. I am lost in something much deeper and more dangerous. I try to remember how we got here, the laughter at the start of the trip, the stories we told to scare each other. The moment we saw the figure by the road, and everything changed. I wonder if any of it was real, or if I have been trapped in this nightmare the whole time. I reach into the car and find an old photograph on the seat. It shows all of us smiling at the start of the trip, but the faces are faded, and the background is just mist. I hold the photo in my hand and feel a wave of sadness and regret. I wish I could go back and change what happened, but I know it is too late. The ghostly figures are almost at the car now, and I feel their cold hands reaching for me. Those are my eyes, and hope that when I open them again, we'll wake up somewhere safe. But the fear stays with me, and I realize that some nightmares never end. I find myself standing in the middle of the highway again, and that now the road is broken and cracked. The ghostly figures form a circle around me, their eyes glowing in the blue mist. The air is heavy, and every breath feels like ice. I look down and see the faces of my friends appearing in the mist, their hands reaching out for help. I try to grab them, but my fingers pass through like they are made of smoke. The road cracks open beneath my feet, and I feel the ground shifting. If it is alive, the sky above is filled with swirling shadows and flashes of distant lightning. Look up and see shapes moving in the clouds, faces and eyes watching from above. I feel the weight of every choice I made on this trip pressing down on me. The fear, the panic, the moments I wish I could change. The ghostly figures begin to whisper, their voices blending with the wind. They speak of things I have tried to forget, secrets I have kept hidden, and regrets I cannot escape. I realize I am being judged not just by what I have done, but by what I failed to do. The faces in the mist look at me with sadness and disappointment, and I feel a wave of guilt wash over me. So run, but the circle of figures closes in tighter, their hands reaching for me, their eyes never leaving mine. I fall to my knees and cover my face, hoping it will all go away, but the whispers grow louder, and the fear becomes too much to bear. I wonder if this is my punishment for what happened on this road, or if I am just trapped in my own mind forever. Ground beneath me gives way, and I fall into a swirling vortex of blue and black mist. The world spins around me, and I see ghostly hands and faces spiraling through the darkness. I reach out for something to hold on to, but there is nothing but memories and regret. Flashes of the road trip appear in the mist, the laughter at the start, the fear when we saw the figure by the road, the panic when we realized we were lost. I see the car spinning out of control, headlights cutting through the fog, the faces of my friends screaming in terror. I try to scream, but no sound comes out. The fear is so strong it feels like I am falling forever. I wonder if this is the end, or just another part of the nightmare. I try to remember who I am and why I came here, but everything is slipping away. The mist wraps around me tighter, and I feel myself being pulled deeper into the darkness. The voices of my friends echo in my mind, calling out for help. I try to answer, but my voice is lost in the storm. I see flashes of other people lost on this road, their faces twisted in fear, their stories blending with mine. I realize I am not the first to fall into this place, and I will not be the last. The fear becomes overwhelming, and I close my eyes hoping that when I open them again, we'll be somewhere safe. But the darkness stays with me, and I keep falling through memories and fate. I wake up on the side of the highway as the first light of dawn breaks through the mist. A car is parked nearby with the doors open and the road is empty. I sit on the ground, trying to remember what happened, but everything feels like a dream or a nightmare. The forest is quiet, and the only sound is the wind in the trees. I look around for my friends, but there is no sign of them. In the distance, I see faint ghostly figures fading into the morning mist. I wonder if any of it was real, or if I am still trapped in the nightmare. As the sun rises, I realize I have more questions than answers. I survived the night, but I do not know what I lost along the way. I get up and walk toward the car, hoping that someday we'll understand what really happened on this haunted road. I look at my reflection in the car window and see a stranger staring back at me. My face is pale, and my eyes are filled with fear and confusion. And the car door and sit behind the wheel, but I do not start the engine. I just sit there listening to the silence and thinking about everything I have seen and felt. I wonder if I will ever be able to leave this place, or if a part of me will always be trapped on this road. As the mist begins to lift and the sun rises higher, I take one last look at the empty highway and drive away, hoping that the nightmare is finally over, but knowing deep down that some roads never let you go.